folks, we're going to give this just a couple more minutes for some more people to file out of the hallway here. Ron Helton coming in with the stickers right away. Hello everyone. Let's get the music cut down here just a little bit. I'll minimize this so I'm not overloading the graphics processor here. Just want to be able to stream monitor. Don't necessarily need to watch myself on two screens, because I'm already watching myself over here. Pull some of this music out of here so everyone can hear me over it. A little bit of beats that are provided by one Mr. Stephen Ignoramus. Thanks always for having him come out and make some music for me. Hopefully we'll be making some music in the near future here again. Looks like we've got some stuff in the works here. I need to tighten that up a little bit. 1, 2. Okay, that's a little bit better. That's where we need to be. Anyway, I think it's about time to drop the music here, and I think it's about time to get down to business. How we doing, everybody? Looks like I got Ron Helton in here watching. I don't have too many other people filing in. Hopefully some other people will file in, but I know, of course, that as usual, because he always seems to hit right about 15 minutes before I'm ready to go live, I'm going to be competing with viewers with Stephen Ignoramus again, but I don't begrudge the kid. Make sure you go over there and give him a like and a follow. He's a good kid. He works hard. He works his ass off. And he has been an asset to the Freedom Scoop Media Group. And I will never begrudge the fact that he is a part of this group. Ever. Especially as much as he's done for this show. It's like we still got some people running through the hallway. But we're already live and we're already talking. So I think it's time to go. Anyway. A couple announcements to get started. First off, this coming week will be my training week, and I will be getting up at 6 o'clock every morning this week, and if all goes well, the following week you are going to start seeing a daily show for this channel here. It's not going to be Ed's World. We're still going to have Ed's World, and we're still going to have a guest every week, and that's going to be a completely separate show. We've got a title in the works. We're going to call it Contemporary with J. Edgar. I know Jake from Freedom Scoop is working on getting a title card made up for that. We're going to make it look kind of Johnny Walker-ish. Nice black label, angled lettering. I think it's going to look good. I saw what he did with the Jack Daniels one, but I'm not that much of a Jack drinker, so we're going to work it with a Johnny Walker one. I kind of got an idea on how it's going to look, but I know his artistic talent, and he's already got something working in his mind too, so that's going to be great. And I know Steven and I talked a bit about trying to get just a little bit of music clip for the start of that. I don't know if we'll have that right at the start of the show, but he's cutting something out of a music clip that I sent him. I don't know if it's going to work or not, or if we're just going to have to rewrite the whole thing and record it personally ourselves. But that would be, that would be fun too. I know he had said it might be easier to get a drum machine and a bass and a guitar and record it myself. But guys, I only have one of those three things, so it may not be easier to do that. Anyway, we've got a few other things to talk about here. A couple other announcements to get out of the way. I've got a show coming up on Monday. It's going to be with Britt. That is at Tweets by Britt over on Twitter. Make sure you give her a follow. She's a lot of fun to talk to. She's a lot of fun to follow. A little bit of snark on the internet. I thought that she had a show of her own, but I guess I haven't been able to find it. I'll look a little bit harder again. I know that our website links to a website that's a podcast for a West Coaster being a conservative, but I didn't see any content there, so I'll ask her about that coming up soon. I know as soon as I get out of this Ed Talk here, I'm going to go start working on the itinerary for that, but I think a lot of us know what's going to be coming this week from the show, and some of this is going to be what we're going to be talking about today, but some of it as well is going to be in addition. That way I can get some visual aids and get another voice onto all of this here. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, yes, the reason I brought that up. Keep in mind that I will be live streaming that from noon to 2 Central Time, a much, much earlier time slot than my normal time slot. And this is to get around her schedule with her family and her work. But I'm going to restream it at the normal time. Now, this is an idea that I had, and I might start doing this with some of my other shows too. Sit back and restream it at another time. That way, there's more content for people to be able to see. Get it up on all the other platforms. I know I go through restream, and I can go through and delete the stream afterwards. So the second run, just to get some more viewers in, maybe experiment with sometimes. Maybe we'll do a different time of the live stream if I find a time slot where I'm getting more people and more attention onto this. So, yeah, maybe we'll do that for live streams. But other than that, yep. I'm going to start experimenting with that. And of course, contemporary is going to be on the audio platforms. I keep saying I'm going to put this on the audio platform, but I keep not doing it. So, yes, I promise that this episode is going to hit the audio platforms. I promised that 2 weeks ago, but I do promise that this one's going to hit the audio platforms. So that'll be coming up here in the near future. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that's all we have for announcements. I know we got the big announcement last week with Jake from Freedom Scoop on my show that I have taken over as being the man in charge of the Freedom Scoop Media Group. And I've got some ideas as to how I want to change a few things. For the most part, I want to leave it the same as what it was. You know, auto uploads for our podcasts to make sure that everybody's got videos on there. But I do want to branch a little bit out more into writing. And that's a big part of the reason that I'm doing the daily show too, because we've got the Daily Ignoramus, and it's a great show. But it's not really commercial friendly. So, I mean, obviously advertisers aren't going to want to advertise beyond the first 30 to 45 minutes of it. And he runs for 7 hours at a time. So I'm going to try and bridge the gap a little bit. Of course, we're going to have the weekly content from the generational gap, the weekly content from me with Ed's World and from Ed Talks. But yeah, just to have that daily show there that's only 30 to 45 minutes. That way we can court some live reads, get some live reads in there, and, you know, maybe we'll get some of these guys to start doing daily shows as well. I hope so. I hope that we can get people paid enough that we can get them at least not dependent on their jobs and doing this full-time and professionally. That is my dream. That's been Jake's dream for this since he started. That has been my dream for this since he started. I don't know what the hell just fell out there, but I mean, it is time to start looking for a home. Something to purchase. We're getting to that point. The credit worthiness is going to be good, so yeah, that is going to be that. So I have a couple topics sitting here that I wanted to talk about. Looks like my video never kicked over on DLive. Anyway, oh yeah, there's another announcement that I wanted to get to. So I'm not going to pop the. I have enough coinage in the chest that I could pop the chest right now, but I'm not going to pop the chest right now on DLive. I am going to wait a bit to do that here. We've got 6.2 in there right now. I'm not going to pop it now. I'm not going to pop it during the first run with Brit. When we do the rerun at the normal time with Brit on Monday, I'm going to pop the chest then. So get your speech up in here. Make sure you get that chest filled, and make sure you get over on DLive, because DLive is the way of the future. That's the way that we're going to be moving things forward, getting into blockchain, getting away from YouTube and Twitch and the other big names out there, and really starting to form the independent platform. So make sure you head on over to DLive. There are a lot of good creators over there already. And there are some people that I don't agree with either, but they have the actual chance to have their platforms be there and be safe over on DLive. Omega Lull 4255, welcome on in. If you have any questions as we're going along, this is a listener-based show, so actually I was just going to go over that right now. So if you haven't been here before, this is Ed Talk. This is a bi-weekly listener-based show. So I've got topics here that I want to talk about as we go along. And, you know, it's just something to fill time. But the real goal for this is to answer listener questions and really let the listener take the direction of the show. I won't answer anything overtly racist or read it out loud from the live chat. We've had that discussion with some of the people that have come in. You are free to put it in the live chat if you want to. I delete live chat after every stream, so there's no worry about you getting doxxed or getting in trouble from your spicy opinions. So go ahead and be free to say whatever you want. But legitimate questions. We'll talk about anything. We'll talk about music. We'll talk about cars, movies, things like that. And I want to see what you guys think, and I want to know what you guys want to know from me. So get your questions into the live chat, share the stream out so we can get some more people into the live chat, and let's answer some questions here. But first, I want to start out with some of the topics that I do have on the list, since we're still waiting for some people to file in here. So, the first topic here is just something that I've been observing over the last couple of days. Now that we're starting to get some votes in, now that the Iowa caucus is done, now that New Hampshire is done, and now that we're starting to see the direction that this campaign is going to go, I've been noticing that there's been an increase on the fanaticism around some of the candidates that are out there. Now, of course, you've got the Bernie bros that know that they took it in the ass from the last campaign. Hillary took that away from them because of her ties with the DNC and the money that she paid to them. And I know a lot of them are getting really, really edgy thinking about the fact that Mike Bloomberg is going to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bloomberg a bit later. I'm going to get a little tinfoily about Bloomberg too, because I don't think he's in this legitimately. I think he's got an ulterior motive, and I don't think it's completely pure for the DNC. But we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But right now, I just want to talk about the fanaticism that's out there. Now, there's no real fanaticism for Elizabeth Warren because nobody really likes Elizabeth Warren. That's something. There is a Discord server, actually. Hold on, let me get that in here. Let that link pop up and populate there. There absolutely is a Discord, so absolutely hop on in there and we'll talk up there. And it'll double post because I'm posting to YouTube and Twitch for that. So go ahead and check that out. Come on in and join us. That'll be awesome. Thanks for asking. I know I want to kind of move this into a call-in show as I get more popular going up, and I'm hoping that I get a bigger viewership as I go to doing the daily content here. So I am not going to set up for a call-in show now, but I do want to set up for that in the future. So keep your eyes out for that in the future. And of course, we will host it from the Discord server because that seems to be the easiest way to do it. All right. Anyway, going back to the fanaticism that goes around the candidates, because it's a bit nuts, and that's something that I know right off the top here. Meg, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that or not. I don't know if I have the link set up for yeah, maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. That might be an admin only thing. Which the Restream bot should be an admin, so I don't know why that's not working. Maybe it's just too soon. I don't know. Anyway, so I've got a few people. I actually had somebody threaten to assassinate me earlier today because I dared to say, of course we have to think about the fact that Dick Van Dyke has come out and said, oh, well, of course I'm going to stand behind Bernie. Now, Dick Van Dyke is 93, so Bernie Sanders is a young spring chicken compared to him. But, he came out and he said, well, Bernie has been consistent for 50 years. I mean, he's been in politics for half a century, but he's been consistent for 50 years, and that's why I back Bernie. And I had the audacity to come out and say, well, yeah, I mean, you can be consistent for 50 years. That doesn't mean you're right. I mean, think about that for just a half a second there. You've got a guy that's had the exact same ideas and has been consistent for 50 years, which means he doesn't feel that he has any sort of need to adapt, change, or going anywhere. He doesn't have to adapt. He thinks he's right all the time. And a lot of his followers think that he's right too. That was actually one of the first responses that I got is, well, if you're consistently right for 50 years, then you are right. Well, he's not consistently right. That's the problem. Bernie Sanders, and this was pointed out, well, if you read his policies, then you'll understand. Well, I've studied Bernie Sanders' policies. I've been studying them from the first time that I heard the name Bernie Sanders, and they are a highly extremist version of what chased me away from the Democrat Party to begin with, because for those of you who have been following along for quite a while, you'll remember the fact that I left the Democrat Party because I read Barack Obama's primary agenda, not necessarily Jesus, I don't know what the hell they're doing out there, but they sure are enjoying it, whatever it is. They're moving something around. Anyway, I read Barack Obama's primary agenda, and I knew that this was going to become mainstream and even somewhere to the right in the Democrat Party, somewhere going down the road. Now, obviously, it was an extremist agenda because it was a primary. It was before primaries were largely televised and largely popularized throughout the country. I mean, this was back when nobody gave a damn about politics still. We were just excited to get a Bush out of office. And, at the time I was teetering. I thought it was only a bipolar choice at that point. You could either be a Democrat or Republican. And since I've been studying politics, I've learned quite a bit more about that. But to look at the Sanders agenda, he's been consistent about it. That's right. But what he's looking for is to tax me even more than I'm already taxed by the government, which taxation is theft. I know I turned around and just took it right in the behind. What was it, last week or the week before? I think it was the week before last when I went down and I finally got my truck registered because they finally released it, the title and everything else from the state of Illinois. Jesus, everybody's dropping out here. Oh well. I'm going to keep talking because that's what I want to do. So yeah, I just took a nice nasty chunk out of my ass from the state of Wisconsin for buying a truck out of state. But anyway, that's another story for another time. But Bernie's agenda, that's exactly what it is. He just wants to get more taxation into me. It's a redistributionist kind of thing. Bad connection. Ron Helton is back. I wonder if I dropped off somewhere. No, my Twitch is still going. Yeah, all my D-Live dropped off right away. I haven't had anybody pop in on YouTube yet. Anyway, so Bernie Sanders, that's all he wants to do is he wants to increase my taxes so he can give my money away to mostly his fans because, most of the other people out in the country don't want anything to do with it. And he wants to put more government into my everyday life. And that is the point that I draw contention from, is the fact that he wants more and more government in my everyday life. And I pointed that out. I never got a response out to that one. And of course, obviously, the Sanders math is shoddy at best on top of it. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's just giving out some sort of utopian idea so he can get the authority to go after the millionaires and the billionaires so he can take all their money and give it to charity, which includes a trip through his pocket first. Trust me when I tell you this, the socialist government is going to be taking quite a bit of a cut out of the top of whatever money that they are going in and redistributing. Anybody who tells you differently is a liar. That's plain and simple. But now we go back here and we're going through this and I'm getting replies from some of this, and I took a swing at the mighty Bernard, the messiah of the far left, and of course all of his religious fanatics wanted to run out and take their swing back at me because they think that I give a fuck. So I had one guy come in, and of course he told me that I was wrong, and then when he tried to, I don't know what his point was, but he decided he needed to make a second comment. Apparently he read my profile and he saw that I am centrist conservative, which means I'm not allowed to have any compassion and off to the dustbin with me, to which I replied, of course, that off to the dustbin, what does that mean? Do you want me to go to the gulag or the furnace? Never got a response from that, which makes me a little bit nervous because I've got this feeling he does have one of the two of them out there, but he doesn't want me to report him for it. I hope he's watching this. I hope he sees this on the fucking pedoscope. You know, those fanatics, they like to sit down and stalk people's profiles for something else to catch them on. But Jessica Green, Anarchy Toward, who is going to be on this show in a couple weeks, came out to my defense a little bit, and we started talking back and forth about giving some of these people power. And of course, he had to take swings at her too, bringing the border camps into this and stuff like that. So I don't know why people even follow. Well, I do know why people follow Bernie Sanders, because they think they've stopped trying to get ahead which I don't know why they've stopped trying to get ahead at this point, because for God's sake, there are 7 million unfilled jobs around this country. You can move away from where you live. I did it. I know. We'll talk about that in just a second here. I want to finish out this topic before I get into that rant. But of course, they think that there's no way for them to get ahead underneath a free market system, which they call capitalism, which it's not really capitalism, or trickle down, which is also not a real term. And they think the only way that they're ever going to get ahead in any way, shape, or form is to have the government force it out of the hands of people like you and me. Well, let me rephrase that. They think all of that money can come from the upper 1/10 of 1%. They have no idea what that means. And obviously, they have no idea what they're going to do after the first $3.2 trillion is gone. And yeah, that's, by the way, too, if you confiscate all the money and wealth from the upper 1/10 of 1%, looks like I got another ping. Wonder if that's going to be the other dude that just popped in. Let me check my Discord here. No, maybe not. No, looks like somebody else is going live over here. Oh, Spook Girl's going back to streaming. If you like to watch video games, which I do, I recommend going there. It's a good community. There's a lot of good people in there. So yeah, absolutely go and check her channel out. We might raid that after we're done here. If you go over onto the Twitch side, we'll go ahead and raid that one. I don't know how many people are going to be there for the raid, but we'll go raid Spook Girl's channel. I think she deserves it. She's a good streamer. Anyway, yeah, if you confiscate all of the wealth from the upper 1/10 of 1%, and we're not even talking upper 1% at this point. We're going to go a little bit finer point than that. If you confiscate all of the wealth from the upper 1/10 of 1%, you're only sitting at about $3.2 trillion. Think about that for a second. And we'll talk about the Yang fanatics here as soon as in a second here, because that number is going to become important if you think about it and then as we go down. So yes, we're going to go ahead and redistribute all of that through wealth taxes and confiscation and all this fun stuff. And honestly, here's the reality of it. $3.2 trillion does not get spread around very far, especially among the rest of the world. I mean, yeah, it's going to give a little bit of money back into the pockets of people, but number one, wealthy people, they can hide their stuff. And number two, I mean, you can't just get $3.2 trillion. And of course, well, it's only going to be 73% of that. Well, yeah, that's 100% is $3.2 trillion. If you're only doing 75, that's what, $2.8 trillion to get spread around 330 million people around the country. Something doesn't math here. But of course, they've been promised that this is going to work and, this is going to do something. Nobody's been told what any of the numbers are. They've just been told that the upper 1% is, or 1/10 of 1% is screwing them. I guess he stopped saying 1% when he entered the upper 1%, but yeah, they've all been told that the upper 1% has been screwing them forever, that they're taking all of what they get from off the backs of these people, and these people that are never going to take a risk, these people are never going to start a business, these people that just want to get the government to hand them their money so they can go on and paint or sit in a coffee house or live the life that the Friends did in the 90s. Sit in a coffee house all the time and never really go to work except for a couple times when the scene called for it for whatever reason and the writers needed it. So that's the Bernie fanatics. And of course, we were going down that too and talking a little bit further down from that. And somebody decided, and he's just some 16-year-old kid from Worcester, Massachusetts, that he, in the comments, instead of commenting to me, just posted my picture and blew it up. And I asked him if he was planning an assassination, and he said yes. So that got reported. We don't need people like that around here. And that's really weird too, because the people on the left are out there saying that, well, we're going to assassinate, we're going to do the gulags and the firing squads, and Kyle Jurek was doing all of that. And the people on the right are saying, dude, you're wrong, and we're going to vote your asses out of here. Even if we have to have a Trump as a presidency or president, we're going to vote your asses out of here. There is a distinct difference between the two of them. One of the things that got brought up along the way when I was having this conversation and deciding the fact that this was what was going to happen was the fact that somebody mentioned somewhere down the comment thread the Kyle Jurek thing. How they're going to feel when the DNC screws Bernie Sanders out of the nomination, which, looking at the caucuses, they're going to have to try a little bit harder. And we'll talk a little bit about the debates coming down the pipe here in just a second. And what did Jurek say? I mean, I'm going to be at the DNC if they have a brokered convention. And right now it's looking like nobody's going to be able to have the delegates to win the DNC. Or to, what's the word I'm looking for? To win the delegate system. They're going to have to either super delegate it out or go to a brokered convention because nobody's going to have the delegates to do that. And yeah, if they screw Bernie out of it, Kyle Jurek said, Milwaukee's going to burn and I'm actually going to sit there and watch it. I think I'm going to bring a fiddle. And you know that I'm not going to be this close to Milwaukee and not go. I mean, it is legitimately an hour over there. I'm going to go. I'm going to go see this for myself. Brokered by design, in my opinion. Explain. What do you mean by that? I don't think it's brokered by design. But I want to know what you think about that. So, anyway. So, we're going to come down to a brokered convention. And, of course, the Bernie fanatics that got screwed out of their Messiah once are going to get screwed out of their Messiah again. And even if they do let Sanders get to the end and get the nomination, he's going to get curb stomped by Trump. And I'm going to laugh. You know, that's the thing. I mean, everyone says, oh, well, Bernie's got the best chance of winning out of everybody here. He could beat Trump. No, he fucking couldn't. He's 80 years old and he had a heart attack. Oh, his medical record. I've got 3 letters from doctors that say that I am healthy enough to run. Yeah, well, release your medical records. And I know that the DNC has to stop Bernie or they will be destroyed. I don't believe that. I think the establishments are sitting in there right now debating putting Bernie up so that the progressive wing collapses. And we'll talk a bit about that with Bloomberg here in a second. Because there's some tinfoil on the other side that I don't think is going on here. The mainline Dems are not willing to give up their power. Yeah, well, that's where I'm going when I say that here. If they put Bernie up and he gets curb stomped by Trump, which I think he's going to, well, either they're going to try and prevent him from doing that so that they don't get curb stomped like that, or they're going to let him be the Mondale, let him lose 49 states to Trump, and then kick all the progressives out of the party. I think the mainlines are starting to realize that the progressives are cancer to their party. From what I'm seeing out of all of this, I'm starting to see that the mainlines are starting to realize that if they keep these progressives in their party the way that they've been doing, they're going to lose more and more grip across the middle of the country. They had a good shot when they had Obama and his mention of hope and change because he was coming in and he was going to change things for the better for people in the midst of one of the worst recessions of most of our lifetimes. And then, of course, he didn't do that. Of course, he got a 0.5% growth coming and growing out of the economy, and everybody thought that was a miracle growth. And people still think that was the miracle growth, and that's still the growth that we're going to. Even though the second he stepped out of office, we suddenly jumped to 4% growth. Here's the fucking thing about Obama, and this is one of the most frustrating things that I've had. The progressives need to move to the concept of truth in advertising and start their Communist Party. Well, see, the problem with that is they're latched onto the Democrats right now because they are a leftward movement. So they're obviously on the left side of the aisle. But the communists can't win in the middle of the country, especially with the elder voters, early Gen X, baby boomers, and the silent generation that are still alive. Those people will rush to the polls, even if they've never voted before in their lives, will rush to the polls to keep communism from coming into this country. And the Progressive Party knows that. That's why they are latched onto the Democrat Party right now, because they know that it's the only way that they can get any sort of power. into this country. Now, of course, they've got the youth vote out there, and all the millennials think that progressivism is the greatest thing in the world. For whatever fucking, well, part of that is because most of them don't remember what the Soviet Union is. I mean, I've had to study the Soviet Union to understand what the end goal of all of this is. And of course, we've got Jurek out there. Well, Mr. Jurek, what are they going to do if with the people that won't convert? Well, what do they do in communist Cuba? Oh, the shooting squad. Hey, R-rated conservative. I was just talking about Kyle Jurek. Welcome on in. If you got any questions, of course, leave them down here. Everybody go check out the R-rated conservatives channel on YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Mixer, Periscope, and everywhere else that he streams to. He's a good streamer. He's a good guy. That was probably one of the most fun that I've had on stream was when I was on his show. What was that, a couple weeks ago at this point here? Follow that channel too, because somewhere down the road you're going to see the debate between Trumpster Bob, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm absolutely looking forward to that here. What time? How long have I been streaming? I don't have an uptime command. I can't see how long I've been streaming here. I know I've been ranting for a while about the religious fanaticism of Bernie Sanders fans, and I haven't even gotten to these dumb fucking Yang fans. These dumb fucking... The Yang fans believe what Yang is telling them. They have no concept of numbers or the economy. He just keeps saying that he's got a plan to do the things, but he can't back them up with numbers, even if he's got a fucking math pen on his jacket. This guy. So, he made some post about pardoning people and using his pardon power. And I made a comment onto his post saying that he's going to be, if he were president, he would be spending, and of course all of his followers, you don't mean if you're president, you mean when you're president. Yeah, Yang's pulling on his fucking wing. I like that. So they keep talking about this. Well, yeah, you're going to be president. It's going to be a matter of when. Like they are way into the fucking cult for this, and that's going to be a part of the reason that Trump is going to curb stomp over whoever the Democrats put up, because there are so many people out there that won't vote for anybody but Andrew Yang or Bernie Sanders or, God forbid, Elizabeth Warren. But anyway, I commented back and I said, Andrew Yang, you're going to be too busy worrying about the runaway inflation that you have on the economy that you just crashed to worry about pardoning people at all. You're going to have way too many other things on your plate to even worry about any of that here. And of course, I attacked the Messiah, and everybody had to jump to his defense because, oh, well, he's not going to have any inflation. He's got a plan to make all of that work. Well, I've read his plans. And once again, they don't work. I did the numbers here, and it looked like it was, what is it? I came up with $3.12 trillion a year that they would have to come up with out of thin air in order to make the freedom dividend, this trickle-up economics as they're talking about, what does he call it, the democracy dollars. In order to make that work for the first year, he needs to come up with $3.12 trillion out of thin air. Now, somebody jumped in and tried to correct me and say $2.7 trillion. $400 million or $1 billion. Oh, that's a big difference when you're talking about that kind of money. Warren's entire career is based on her lie that she's Native American, slot at Harvard, teaching position, etc., etc. Yeah, we can go down that road here in just a second. I want to finish up with this topic here. So, I don't doubt the fact that Andrew Yang believes that giving people an extra $1,000 a month isn't going to do anything. And that he's come up with a model that shows that having that extra $12,000 a year in people's pockets are going to make a difference. He doesn't understand how greedy landlords work and the fact that nobody owns a fucking house. But that's a story for another time. I understand. Yeah, Queef J Strongbow, I love that. I do understand the fact that, yes, he's got a model that shows that this is going to work and it's going to improve our economy. The problem that I have with this is the fact that, yes, he's got to make, for the first year, he's got to come up with $3.12 trillion out of thin air to make all of this work. That's going to inflate the hell out of the economy, out of the currency, because you're just making these numbers up at this point. You're just injecting this money from the Fed into the economy. And that's, what does that do to the dollar when you don't have a productivity to back it up? Now, yes, under the ideal circumstances, people are going to go out and spend that money, and you're going to get things pumping through and all that kind of thing. But once again, people keep pointing back to the fact that he's going to take it from the value-added tax from the upper 1/10 of 1%. And once again, we go back to the fact that if you confiscate every penny of wealth, if they sell off all their stocks and it doesn't crash the stock market, and confiscate every penny from these people, that's only $3.2 trillion. And that's every penny off these people. So yes, you're either going to have to raise taxes through the ceiling, which is going to offset the $1,000 a month anyway, by quite a bit, or yes, you are going to have to print that money, inflate your currency, and crash your economy. Either way, you're going to crash the economy. That type of inflation will crush us. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I brought up, and of course I was called a straw man for doing this here, but I brought up Venezuela from this because one of the things that was brought up to me in defense of the freedom dividend, the Yang bucks, and all the stupid shit like that was the idea that Andrew Yang, of course, is going to find that money on projected GDP growth, which is all well and good. I understand the model. I actually read the model. I've seen the charts that he's using, and I understand the models that he's using on GDP growth from that. But I can tell you right now that it is a fucking dangerous thing. It is a dangerous idea to borrow against a projected GDP growth. And this is where I was called a straw man. It is the most dangerous idea possible to try and borrow against something that's going to be coming back in the future. And if you don't believe me, ask Venezuela. That is the reason that they had their I keep wanting to say crash, and I kept trying to say cash. That's the reason that they had their crash just a few years ago. It's because, what was it? Who's the one that's actually Maduro? Maduro and his predecessor went through and they borrowed money against an oil industry that they, of course, thought was going to be booming. I mean, they wound up being on a gigantic oil field. They drained the oil out of the ground, and they borrowed a bunch of money from the rest of the world against this oil that they were going to sell them in the future, and they distributed it out to their people. The government took over the means of productions. Oklahoma state government was borrowing against future revenues during the oil boom in the 80s, and they got in a bind. People demanded and got a balanced budget amendment. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Yang is trying to do. He's trying to use fuzzy numbers to people who are religiously believing in him to try and make this work so he can get into office and have enough fanatics out there that will vote for him and won't vote for anybody else. He's trying to make all of this work here on paper, and he can make it look good on paper. I'll give him that. I've read all of his proposals. But yeah, I mean, what happens when you have a slump in the economy, a drop in natural resources? What happens if fucking Yemen can suddenly support an industry that'll take it away from us? Some third world country out there strikes gold somewhere, and all that industry comes away from us. And now you're just sitting here with $3.17 trillion of inflation that you can't account for. You can't borrow against future revenue. Just like Ron Helton said with the Oklahoma state government. If you borrow against the future in an uncertain world market especially, you're going to get yourself burned. It's interesting. I know that I was just listening back to my episode with Chris Loxon. And I mean, I don't agree with the idea, but I know it was safe for us to borrow against future investments that we had in our country. based on industry and GDP growth that we expected in this country, and we did a little bit post World War I and post World War II. But one of the differences is we were one of the only countries in the world that didn't have any missiles land on us. Nothing in this side of the world saw any of the fighting that they saw over on the other supercontinent over there. And what that meant is all of the other economic superpowers out there, Germany, France, Japan, England, everybody who was a superpower before the war in Europe, all of their factories, all their means of production, everything was blown apart by their enemies. Because, I mean, what's the first thing you do? You go after the means of production. That's simple warfare right there. So they were all still rebuilding and they were buying shit from us. And of course, we slowed off once we realized, and that was, of course, back when we had the top tax bracket too, because we could get away with it. Well, they used to tax the top bracket at 90%. Well, there was one person in that bracket. And number two, our economy was going so strong. I mean, there was no place for our economy to go but up at the time because we were the only place that had buildings left. Anyway. Yeah, that's going to make things interesting coming out too. Because like I said, I mean, there's still people out there that say that they won't vote for anybody. That they'll just vote for Yang. They'll stay home no matter who's on the top of the ticket. Of course, some of those fanatic assholes believe that they just need to get Trump out of office no matter what, and that's a big part of what we have going on here, of course. And I think, well, I'd like to see what the turnout numbers were for Nevada. I know we're still watching the caucuses. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen out of there. It looks like Bernie took an early lead, but I think the union, the culinary union, had something to do with that. I don't know if they got paid off, but that particular union was staunchly anti-Bernie up until about 5 minutes ago. I don't know what happened there. I'd love to know. I'd love to do some analysis and see how many people got muscled into it, or if they brought scabs or skeleton crew in to come and vote for them. I have no idea what happened there, but something shifty is going on there. Looks like Bernie's going to take a handy lead out of Nevada too, which I'm still not completely worried about that because A, I think Bernie's going to get curb stomped by Trump with his health issues and with all sorts of other things, and B, it's just, we're 3 states in. We've still got Super Tuesday to come out, and we've still got a bitter battle coming out. I mean, we've got another debate coming up next week of all fucking time. We're not even waiting months between them anymore. That debate was just pure stupidity, too. All right, let's have a look at what we're going on here. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about that debate here, because I've got a little bit of tinfoil going on there. Now, we're going to be watching some video clips coming up when I've got Brit on. We'll watch some video clips, we'll look at some photos, and we'll talk more in depth about some of the content of the debate. It was a good debate. I was actually very happy to see it. It was Mean Girls. And of course, Warren had to get her hit on everybody except for Bernie Sanders. Warren's done. She's not going anywhere. She's looking for a vice presidential slot at this point, or a cabinet position or something. She doesn't want to be in the Senate anymore. She wants to get her name out there. She knows that she can't run again if somebody else gets elected president out of the Democrat Party. She's going to be way too old to do it at this point. But she's looking to have something on the executive side, something that she can go after the little people from the executive branch, even though she's not going to be sitting up on the top of it. But I've got to thinking, after looking at all of this here, first off, I don't believe that any of this is realistic at this point. I'm looking at all of this and I'm seeing this is rigged from the start. I don't necessarily know what direction it's rigged in yet, because it seems to change every time we have another state. But this is rigged. The fix is in on this one. They've got a predetermined result that they want to see. I can't predict what it's going to be yet, but they've got a predetermined result. But there's been a wild card, and somebody, of course, that bought his way into the debates this past time through. I still say if Sanders gets the nomination, if he picks Gabbard, I really think he can make a tight general election. I don't know. I really don't. Both people have been accused at this point of being Russian assets. And I think the DNC is going to run hard against that. And I honestly, if it runs a tight election or a tight general at that point in that scenario, I'm going to assume that the Democrat Party has no more morals anymore, and they are just grabbing for power and using the people as pawns. And they're not even trying to hide it anymore because they'll put two people on the top of the ticket that have been attacked by the Queen, Hillary Clinton. So I don't think that they're going to make it. I do not think. You can quote me on that one. I don't think that that's going to be the ticket that's going to be on the top. Anyway. Let's see, what else do we have here? I've got a Marvin the Martian that didn't show up. Didn't show up on here. Oh, there it is. I didn't see it right there. Marvin the Martian, give me the finger. Fuck you, Marvin the Martian. Anyway. So Mayor Bloomberg got up on the stage. He bought his way onto the stage. And naturally, of course, after he bought his way up onto the stage, everybody went straight after him going on there. I mean, they were tight on him. They were straight on him. Everything that you could think of to go after Mayor Bloomberg for, they went after Mayor Bloomberg for, and he deserved most of it. I mean, he's a constitutionally shredding asshole. He doesn't care about the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, or most of the other Constitution as well it is. He wants to get up to the top, be the manager, and take over everybody in the country at this point. Or so I thought, until I started thinking a lot more about this. Now, dang, I thought he was making laser with his finger. Pew pew. So I thought more about this debate, and I listened to Jen the Libertarian talk about it. I've listened to Tim Pool talk about it. All the Daily Wire guys talk about it. I look back, we've talked a bit about it in the Discord servers and the various ones that I've been in. I am a little bit tinfoily when it comes to Mayor Bloomberg. I don't think he is running to win. I think he is running to make sure that Trump wins. Now, keep in mind, they're both New York billionaires. They both knew each other. I'm sure they've had to work together on zoning projects. They've talked before. If Trump goes out and insults Bloomberg and Bloomberg insults back, I mean, I've talked about this at length before. That is just something that people on the East Coast do. They throw shade at each other. They insult each other. That's what they do. So for them to go out there and go neck and neck and teeth to teeth with each other is just friendly banter to these people, especially if they do it back and forth. But first off, Amy Klobuchar pointed it out at about 80 minutes into the debate. She pointed out the fact that they were up here talking about this and picking fights with each other, fighting with each other, and her and Mayor Pete went back and forth, and Elizabeth Warren slapped her, and the moderators slapped her, and all this other stuff went on there. And she pointed it out right perfectly, and I thought this was going to change the tone of the debate. She pointed out that they've been up there for over an hour and nobody's talked about Trump. Which doesn't surprise me at all at this point. It absolutely doesn't. Mayor Bloomberg took the steam away from Trump. They all focused it on him. And everybody on the debate stage made their point about making sure that Bloomberg doesn't get to the top of the ticket, and made sure that all of you know the fact that he is the scum of the earth that never deserves to be up on the top of the ticket. And they went almost an entire debate, with the exception of a couple quips here and there, without talking about the Orange Man. Meanwhile, he had a massive rally out, where did he have that? Arizona? I don't know. He had another massive campaign rally out there in the country on the same day. I think it was partially overlapped between the two of them. Nobody talked about it. Nobody was talking about the policies or anything else. They were just talking about Mayor Bloomberg. So, with that in mind, Ben Shapiro said that he had to know what was coming for him when he got up on the debate stage, and I think Ben is right. I got a little chill saying that out loud, but I think Ben is absolutely right on this one. I am pretty positive that that Bloomberg went in there and to run interference for somebody. He is not trying to get to the top because he knows he can't do it. He knows for a fact that he can't. And I don't know if I've ever heard anybody else say this, but he knows he can't do that. He's running cover for somebody else. Do you take questions or comments, or is this just a recording of a podcast? If you got something, put it on in there. Absolutely. No, this is a listener hour, so go ahead and get what you want to have in there. So you can take the conversation whatever direction you want to take the conversation. I am not looking here to listen to myself talk for an hour. I want to hear what you guys want to say. Hi, Ed, first time. Hi, Cherry Round. Welcome on in. How did you find us? Absolutely. Go ahead and let us know there. Hit the follow button if you want to, if you think you took something away from this. I play video games too, so go ahead and check out the channel as well. Check us out on DLive, YouTube. Check out, let's get the Discord in there again. Come on in and hang out with us in the Discord too. I'm just talking a bit about Mayor Bloomberg and my tinfoil theory that I had about him. Anyway, so with Mayor Bloomberg, I can't see him running cover for anybody else in the DNC, especially given the fact that he was a Republican mayor of New York. I look at this more, and yeah, I do think he's running cover for Trump. I think he is trying to make sure that Trump gets reelected because, I mean, his taxes went down under Trump. Of course, it's the tax cut for the rich. Well, they went down for a lot of us here, but yes, we took a lot of the corporate tax rate down. And Mayor Bloomberg does own businesses, and he's got his website there, which is going to suffer a major revenue loss if Trump comes out of office. Think about that for a second. Think about the way that the rest of the media looks at Trump. They're going to take a major revenue loss once he steps out of office because they're not going to be covering him 24/7, 365 again. They're actually going to have to go back out and cover news. I mean, their scripts are pre-written for them, and Trump does a big part of that himself, but I don't... Especially the fact that he owns a media company. I think that he is trying to get Trump elected. I really do. So he's going out there and he's got all this stuff behind him. They're talking about him. They're not talking about Trump on the debate stage anymore, which is a fucking relief because everything that I saw for the entire time, Warren is now demanding a blanket release of all the NDAs from Bloomberg's business. Well, she's going to have to get a warrant for that. That's against the Fourth Amendment. That's an unreasonable search and seizure, especially when it's coming from a sitting senator. But, of course, Elizabeth Warren doesn't give a fuck about the Constitution, so of course she's going to run out and demand that. No. No. It's the same thing with the tax returns. It's the same thing with Bloomberg's tax returns. She doesn't get to have a release. Yeah, the debate was a dumpster fire. I've been so disenfranchised by politics, I only vote on a proven track record on what my best interest is. Healthcare and debt reduction. Yeah, debt reduction. Don't even fucking get me started on that. I was promised that the debt was going to go down under the Donald. Now, he still has my support for being an outsider in politics and being president for the first time, but that is wavering every time I look at the debt clock. Every time I look at the debt clock, that is wavering. Now, of course, it hasn't gone up as fast as it went under the Obama administration, but still, we have taxes and a good economy. We should not be taking the debt up right now. We should be slashing spending, and it should be going down. Every marker in our economy says the debt should be going down right now. Every marker. And yet we're still ticking up. How? Somebody explain that to me. As far as healthcare, I'm a free market guy, and I really, I don't want the government involved in healthcare. I know that's been one of the things that's been a big topic out of all this. Trump wants to make Trump care, which, why get the government involved? If you're just going to have Obamacare light, why run on getting rid of Obamacare? Why? Seriously. Single payer, Ron actually has it absolutely right. The best solution for healthcare is competition. The government has caused the problem with healthcare. They need to stop interfering. Yeah. So I look at healthcare, and it's a sucky idea. Healthcare is a sucky idea. Where was I going? So the idea that I have for healthcare is a sucky idea, but I think it's the only way that we can get control over the healthcare market again without going into single payer and crashing our ability to have all of the innovations in medicine that have come out of this country, and the fact that we've got people moving from around the world to be doctors in this country. So I look at the healthcare market, and we just need to get rid of the ACA completely, get all government interference out of healthcare. And you're going to see the health insurance market crash, just completely crash. The reason it's going to crash is that people, once the ACA is gone, they're going to realize, especially once you get the exchanges out of there, a lot of people aren't going to have health care anymore. And a lot of people are going to turn to their employers and give them the finger when it comes to the health care that their employers are providing for them. So participation in the healthcare market is going to drop substantially. I bet you if you got rid of the ACA tomorrow, participation in the healthcare system would drop 70 to 80%, whether voluntary or being forced off because of the government exchange programs. Now, the insurance companies are going to look at this, the ones that were in the exchanges or the ones that are just going privately through the employers or just privately in general. They're going to look at this and they're going to realize, fuck, we're not making any money anymore. Why aren't we making any money anymore? Oh, nobody's buying our product because we have the prices over. We have the prices way up. And the market will correct itself. And yes, the prices are going to drop once they realize that, you'd rather sell at a lower price than not sell it at all. Let me see. Just imagine trying to buy a TV or vehicle if the government micromanaged every aspect of production, less made and more expensive. That is not quite the analogy that I would go with when it comes to the healthcare market, but you're close. Imagine trying to buy a TV if you were informed by the government that it is against the law to not have a TV. Or cable, for that matter. If the government came out and said it is illegal to not have cable, what do you think the price of cable is going to do? If the government says it's illegal to not have a TV and you have to buy one every 3 years, what do you think is going to happen to the price of televisions? You have to have it and you have to buy it. That price is going to skyrocket. And that's what we're seeing out of the ACA too. The government says you have to have the insurance so they can charge you whatever the hell they want with it. Now, yeah, and it would take about 3 months and the insurance companies would say, oh, well, we're not making any money anymore. What do we do? And they'll start dwindling the prices down and, the employers will start getting it. The biggest problem with the healthcare market is that everybody has to have it. So, okay, yes, they can do a lot with the premiums and they can jack the premiums up as high as they want them. But the biggest problem that comes along with this is the deductibles. I mean, I told my HR manager because, there's no fine in it anymore. It's still illegal for me to not have insurance, but there's no fine to it anymore. There's no way to punish it. So when the HR lady came out and tried to convince me to get on the company healthcare, I looked at her and said, no. It's $3,000 a year in premiums. It's more than that. What is it? It's like, no, it's the other way around. It's $5,000 a year in premiums. $5,500 a year in premiums, I think, was what I finally calculated it out to. And then another $1,500 out of deductible. That is $7,000 that I have to shell out before I can even start using the health care. No. I can spend that $7,000 elsewhere. And if I have to, well, that's the other problem here. But if I have to, I'll pay it out of pocket somehow. And here's the other thing that goes along with that too. Now, of course, everybody has to have insurance. And it's illegal. I'm happy that you're healthy, Ed. Well, I'm probably not at the best place that I could be, but I'm getting by. That's the problem. The other problem that comes with having it illegal to not have having it illegal to not have insurance is, number one, the hospitals stopped being no health care is gambling for me. No health care is gambling for a lot of people, myself included. It absolutely is. The other side of this, of course, is with everybody being forced to have insurance. Now, when you go to the hospital for whatever reason, the assumption is going to be that you have insurance. So they're going to charge you whatever the hell they want. Go over and check out the generational gap, the replay on YouTube, because Robert actually just itemized that out for us, what it costs to go in and have somebody just look at you for a hernia. Not to even have the surgery, just to have somebody look at it for you. And of course, it's illegal now if you go in and you try and price shop around for like a heart surgery or an arm surgery or something else like that. They can't tell you what it's going to cost you going into it. Because why would they need to? Because you have insurance. The insurance is going to cover it. That's the other part of my plan, going back onto the free market, to be completely honest. When I look at that here, of course, now if people stop having insurance for 3-6 months, because I think that market is going to correct itself in a hurry. The healthcare guys are greedy. They need to sell you that stuff. They might even start having open enrollments in the middle of the year if they realize that everybody's going through and telling their employer, screw you, I don't want your insurance anymore. They might have open enrollment year round for a while just to try and get people on there. Oh, well, your deductible, or hey, we've got these plans here. $300 a year for premium, $300 deductible. Please buy my insurance. It's what they're going to do. But in that 3-month interim period, while the insurance companies are trying to figure out how they're going to keep making money again, your hospital visits are going to start going down too. People are going to go to homeopathy. They're going to try and go other routes other than trying to get that $30,000 bill to have a checkup in the emergency room. They're going to go find other routes to go do things. I mean, they'll have first aid done at home for a little while. And then the hospitals are going to do the same. We're not making any money anymore. We can't build that extra wing. We can't keep this many people on staff anymore. Why can't we do this? Our donors aren't getting all their money anymore. It's going to be the same thing. They'd rather sell it at a lower price than not sell it at all. So that's where I stand on healthcare. Yes, honestly, if the government had to get involved in healthcare, I would say, and I'm kind of with Styx Hexenhammer on this. I've heard him say this a couple times, and I've thought about it myself here. Obviously, we should do it at a state level, not at a federal level. But if you start passing state laws that say it's illegal to not sell insurance for pre-existing conditions, and just take everything else back out of the healthcare market, all the other restrictions off of it, I think you're going to see a lot of things turn around. I think you're going to see a lot of this correct itself. The free market will correct it all. And with all the pre-existing conditions out there, I'm pretty positive that insurance companies would find a way to cover people that are pre-existing if it came down to not getting that money or getting that money. That's just me. I know how greedy people are. So if you get the government hand out of it, they've got to market correct it. Otherwise, they're not going to sell anything. And that's the end of the story. They can either go home and not make any money, or they can try and make the money. Let's see. I think we're going to start wrapping it up here. I do want to talk just a bit about something I've noticed here. Something with Star Trek here. But looks like I've got Cherry, Round, and Ron are the only ones here. If you guys got any other questions here before we start wrapping it up, I'm going to hit my last topic here, and I think we're going to head out for the night. So, Star Trek has been something it wasn't a part of my childhood like it was for a lot of people, because my parents didn't care for Star Trek. I think my mom liked it, but my dad definitely didn't he doesn't like any sort of sci-fi. Which is best, DS9 or TNG? DS9. I love DS9. I had only seen, up until last year, I'd only ever seen, it was year before. Up until 2 years ago, I'd only ever seen about half of Voyager. And then I started watching all the seasons, but I started doing it backwards. I did Voyager, then Enterprise, and then DS9, and then TNG. I still haven't seen the original series. But I did start watching Voyager again. After seeing DS9 and understanding what the Maquis was, I wanted to go look at the characters again. Going through it again, I kind of tore through it too. I'm already on season 5. And this was only probably a month ago that I started watching it again. Um, anyway, there are 5 good episodes of Voyager. I liked Voyager. Well, once again, I didn't have it up until a couple years ago. Didn't have anything to compare it to. Tuvix, that was a good one. Yeah, that was a very emotional one. I like that. Um, anyway, I'm looking through this again, and I'm starting to realize, now that I've seen Next Generation and understood what the Star Trek universe was like under Roddenberry. Again, I haven't really seen the original series, but I kind of know what it was like on the original series, and then seeing TNG and this utopian world where there's no currency and everything is provided for you and everything. Keep in mind the fact that Roddenberry died early on in the run for Deep Space Nine. I'd love to live in that money no object better self world. Well, that's kind of what I want to touch on here. Now, yes, obviously, it's the technology in the Star Trek universe that makes a currency-free existence possible. Because as long as you have the energy to do it, which the replicator will provide you whatever you need. You don't go hungry on food. You don't have any other necessities. You can clothe yourself. And of course, we had all that technology, and there wasn't really a currency in there until you got into Deep Space Nine and you started dealing with the Ferengi and the Latinum that they use. Which I got an answer from Armin Shimmerman on Twitter one day. I asked him to tap into that Quark personality for a second and tell me how it was that Quark could sell to Starfleet if they didn't have a currency. I had somebody else actually answered it, but I want to touch on Voyager and what it introduced outside of the Roddenberry timeline. I was noticing this earlier on, and people were starting to talk about replicator rations. Now, of course, on Deep Space Nine and on Next Generation, you don't really have to worry about energy. I mean, neither one of them was really about exploration. Of course, you had the exploration into the wormhole, but they were tied to a planet that was rich in resources, and they were only a couple days away from Federation space where they could get the resources. Enterprise, they were back in the Sol system once a month, if not more, as far as series-wise. So, of course, they could always replenish the energy. There was no scarcity in either of those. There was no scarcity in either one of those series. Voyager, there was scarcity. And I bet you if Roddenberry was to come back alive and see that, he'd be really worried about that, because you're going back to the realistic idea of the human condition, what goes on in the human condition, and how people need to make do and barter to get through. I mean, I know of one, and again, I'm paying attention to this time. They ran out of gas at one point in season 3, no, early season 4. They ran out of gas. Well, deuterium, but they ran out of fuel. They actually had to shut most of the ship down until they could get a trade to get the warp core back running. And yes, they had to focus on their rations. They had to make sure, and if they didn't have the rations, they had to eat the cafeteria food. Or if they saved up their rations and used it to make a gift for somebody. Remember when Tom Paris bought the locket for Kess, and it took him a week's worth of replicator rations, so he had to eat Neelix's food for a week. Yes, there was still plenty of food. They were able to adjust for that, keep the food growing in the aeroponics bay, pick up stuff along the way, food and whatnot from M-class planets that we saw. We all saw. It all happened off screen. We didn't see a lot of it, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, they could pick up raw materials on there. But yeah, I mean, they had to, their replicator time had value. It was like currency. Their replicator rations were currency in that. So, I don't know. It was a good idea. The concept was really good. It was really deep and psychological. Like Cherry Round mentioned the Tuvix episode where Captain Janeway had to decide whose life was more valuable at the time. That was really really deep. But they did explore a lot of the ideas of what happens in extended deep space when you don't have an option. Of course, Enterprise was an extended deep space mission, but you had the option. You could get on with another ship and go home if your mind cracked and you couldn't handle it anymore, or you were on a layover every year or so at a starbase getting things refueled, rebuilt, etc. The Federation could send a shuttle for anybody who wanted to switch out. The Federation could send somebody in, switch them back home, switch somebody else out in their place. So you didn't really have that deep space paranoia and anxiety that comes from being out in the deep space for a long time under scarcity. And I mean, you're seeing a lot of this. I'm in season 5 right now, and I'm seeing a lot of the psychological effects that are happening on the characters right now from being away from home for such an extended period. And it seems like every time, every other episode, they've got the opportunity to get back home and it fails. And I mean, you see the crushing defeat in them. So I don't know. That's the way I see it. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap this up here. We'll go through a couple of the announcements again. First off, it looks like in 2 weeks, I'm gonna train myself next week, and then the week after, we're gonna start doing daily shows. It's going to be early in the morning, and I'm going to get it out on the audio platforms so you can go and check that out throughout your day, on your drive to work, on your drive home from work, at your desk at work, or whenever you listen to podcasts. It's going to be just a 30 to 45 minute show. We're not going to do extended times or anything like that because I do still have to go and make a living right now. So we're going to do that. Maybe we'll see if we can get some commercials sold on the Freedom Scoop. I'd love to get people getting me to live read and then put the elbow to them to get live reads for the other guys too. I really would love to see these guys making a bunch of money because they deserve it. Oh, my sister wants to talk to me here too. So yeah, we're going to start wrapping this up. Don't forget, on Monday at noon to 2 Central Time, I will be back for Ed's World with Brit, Tweets by Brit over on Twitter. Check us out there, and check us out on DLive later on in the day. I'm going to recast that show, but I'm going to hang out in the live chat to answer any questions that we have in the live chat. I'll hang out with you guys in the live chat, but it's going to be a recast. It's going to be a pre-recording the second time through. That is going to be from 6:30 till probably about 8:30, depending on how much time we spend in the episode. Talking about plenty of things. There are going to be plenty of things to talk about this week, so check us out on either one of the time slots. And if you're on the noon to 2, we'll actually answer your questions live as they come in. And if you're on the 6:30 to 8:30, we'll be hanging out in the live chat and answering questions by text rather than by voice. So come check us out there. Of course, we'll have Ed's World Gaming on Tuesday, playing some more Old World Blues. We actually might do some of that tomorrow too. Girlfriend's working on a homework project this week, so I'm not going to see her this weekend. So I think we're going to take the time and we're going to play some more Fallout New Vegas over on this channel as well. So check us out here. We'll be on YouTube, Twitch, DLive, and Periscope. So come and check us out there. Other than that, Ed's World is back onto its regular schedule coming up this week, and there are not going to be any breaks. So of course we'll be at 6:30 every Monday, and Ed's World Gaming on Tuesday, and Ed Talk every other Saturday. As we always say on this show, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Thank you for coming to my Ed Talk, and we are going to go and raid Spook Girl. So hang tight if you're over on Twitch. We're going to go do that raid, and then we're going to sign out of here. See if I can do this from my tablet. All right, we're getting ready to raid. So hang tight here. It's a good community. I like hanging out in there, so it'll be good. And as soon as that kicks, we're ready to go. Tap to raid now.